who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Matthew 26 tells us that finally 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent, and the high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look now, you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Following the actions of Jesus' betrayal in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was brought before the high priest and the Sadducee-controlled Sanhedrin to undergo questioning regarding his actions. It was certainly clear that before any questions were asked or any witnesses were produced, death was the only outcome that would satisfy those who took Jesus. Though Jesus appeared before them each day in the temple in Jerusalem, the chief priests could not act upon their desire to take Jesus for several reasons. If they arrested him in the temple, the crowds would see their actions and riot. His reputation preceded him, and the people knew of his astounding ministry. Taking him prisoner in front of the people who loved him would certainly anger them and cause them to turn against the high priest. Questions would also arise as to why take Jesus. The people's conclusion would be quick and easy. The people knew of the chief priest's wealth and power, and an arrest of Jesus would put it further into the spotlight. Also, if the rulers publicly arrested Jesus, they would be forced to try him publicly. And a public trial would need to be a fair trial, something that rulers could not afford if they were to succeed in having Jesus killed. A court of the entire Sanhedrin would unlikely explore the option of the death penalty, let alone carry out the sentence in front of a crowd that hung on the words and teachings of Jesus. The only chance the chief priests and scribes had was to convene in the house of the high priest in darkness with restricted access to the general population, where very few would know what was occurring. The idea that Jesus had a trial is a modern-day creation. According to the laws of first-century Judaism, what Jesus experienced was not a trial. A trial signifies order and justice, 2 actions that were lacking in the final hours of the life of Jesus. As there was no real evidence to put Jesus to death, the chief priests and the Sadducees were forced to bring him before the only people who would carry out the action with no repercussions. The Roman authorities under the leadership of Pontius Pilate. Within a few short hours, Jesus was brutally flogged and sentenced to death by the Romans. Pilate had the absolute power to free Jesus, but make no mistake, he chose to wash his hands of it. Under the guise of justice, the death of Jesus was unjust. From the perspective of the natural world, Jesus had committed no crime, let alone a crime worthy of the punishment of death. The Gospels are adamant to point out that each witness who came against Jesus was a false witness, and after thorough examination of Jesus, no guilt could be found. From the supernatural perspective, the death of Jesus was by no means just. as death is a deserved result of sin. However, the witnesses of the ministry and testament of Jesus proclaim that there was no sin in his life. The definition of justice is the fair or reasonable recourse for an action in attempt to make one whole or complete. The death of Jesus was an unjust action that served as an act of grace beyond measure. The justice that should deservedly be placed upon man due to the sin was placed upon Jesus, and he willingly died so that those deserving death could gain the opposite, which is life. It is amazing that the act of humanity's perversion of justice through the death of Jesus brought about the greatest act of grace and mercy for those who believe. What was done in secret, what took place in the dark, was turned on its head to save humanity from sin and eternal suffering.